Hi beauties! Welcome to this week's video. Today we are going to be having a real ass career chat, and I'm just going to be giving you guys the lowdown on the reality of what it's like to move to Europe as a chartered accountant registered in South Africa. I've been wanting to film this video for a while, but I don't know why, I just hadn't sat down and filmed it. So I figured I might as well do it now, especially because people are completing their articles and figuring out what they're going to be doing with their lives next year. So I figured I would, put this video out there to give people information in case there's anyone who is considering moving this side of the world. So yeah, that's what this video is going to be about. Before I jump right into it, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and if you have, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate it. And lastly, definitely give this video a thumbs up. Grab yourself some wine or bernini or whatever it is that is your drink of choice, or coffee, whatever the case may be, and settle down, and I will get into the lowdown. So where are we going to begin? The first thing is, how do you get a job on this side of the world? Okay. I have said this before on my YouTube video about failing in university, and I said it on my live video that I had with Zama. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is updated. Like, you don't have to have a stellar LinkedIn profile, but make sure your LinkedIn profile is updated. These people need to know that you are eligible to register as a chartered accountant. They need to know what firm you did your articles at. They need to know, that you passed your board exams and all of that good stuff. Like, add all of that stuff to your LinkedIn profile, what university you went to, yada yada yada. Make sure your LinkedIn profile makes you look attractive to recruiters, because that is honestly the best thing you can do in terms of getting a job this side without having to do a lot of work, because the recruiters will find you. The second thing you need to do is also make sure you have recruiters on your LinkedIn that you're connected with, and it's pretty much the same companies that do the recruitment. It's Gap placement, or Gap, is it Gap or Gap? Gap, I think it's just Gap, not Gap. Gap placement and Robert Walters. Those are the two main ones that I know about that do the placements in Europe. So make sure you have people who work for those recruitment companies, not replacement companies. Make sure you have people who work for those recruitment companies on your LinkedIn connections list, because having those two things will definitely help you put yourself in the best position to just be approached by someone, as opposed to you having to approach them. Right, so that is basically how you can secure a job in Europe. The third option is, if you work for one of the firms that are international, you can go via the firm, because internally they will have their sites where you can access the information about, like, the offices that have vacancies or offices that are hiring people, and then you can go ahead and approach that office that you want to go to yourself. Because the thing with the firms is that they're not allowed to poach. So a firm in one country or even in another city cannot poach a trainee from, or an employee from another firm, like the same firm, in another city or in another country. So let's say you work for Grant Thornton. Grant Thornton is international. Grant Thornton in London cannot poach people from Grant Thornton in Durban, because, like, they're not allowed to do that. So you, as the employee, have to approach the other firm office that you want to work for. So those are the ways that you can go around getting a job in Europe. Now, for the realities of actually moving to Europe, oh my gosh, depending on the firm that you work with and depending on what your situation is, you can move by yourself or you can move with your significant other. Personally, I'm a loner. I moved by myself, but I have friends who moved with their significant others, and it worked out just as well. Now, the important thing that you want to do is pick the right country for yourself. In order to pick the right country for yourself, you need to ask yourself, what is your end goal? What do you want out of this? Are you going to another country so that you can explore being in Europe, like travel to different countries and all of that stuff? Or are you going with the intention of moving there long term? So that will generally impact which countries you want to go to. So if you're someone who's moving to work in Europe so that you can explore Europe, I would suggest going to a country that is a Schengen state, because that's the easiest way to travel Europe. If you are working for a country that is in the Schengen region, then you don't need to get a Schengen visa to travel to other countries in the Schengen region. You would need a visa to travel to countries that are not in the Schengen region, which are a lot less than countries that are in the Schengen region. So if traveling is your thing, then definitely go for a country that is in the Schengen states. Like, that's going to be the easiest way to do it. But obviously, because life is the way life is, you might not have that option available to you because those offices might not be recruiting at the time when you are looking. So, you know, if you're lucky, you'll get in with a country that's in the Schengen state. If you're not, then sorry. And then if you're someone who's moving with the intention to move long term, look at the what's the word? Damn it, I hate it when this happens. Look at the regulations around getting permanent residency and citizenship in those countries. That's the word, regulations. So look at the regulations around that stuff. So countries like Germany, you would need to learn German, I believe. If you want to be a citizen of Germany and answer questions, and it's a whole process. But if you go to the UK or to Ireland, the processes are a lot more different. So that's something that you need to research about. And then you need to research about how long it's actually going to take you to get permanent residency and how long it's going to take you to get citizenship. So if you are in South Africa, for example, it would take you 10 years as a foreign national. It would take you 10 years to get permanent residency. And then after that, another 10 years before you can apply for citizenship. So it will take you a total of 20 years in South Africa to get citizenship. Whereas in the UK and Ireland, it would take you about 6, maybe 7 years, depending, you know, on how much you travel, because they look at the number of days cumulatively of how, like the number of days cumulative. Maybe I shouldn't be drinking this rosé. No, but that's not it. They look at the number of days cumulatively of how long you spent in the country to add up to your 5 years. So with me in Ireland, it takes 2 years to get the permanent residency on my work permit. So I'm on a critical skills work permit, which is for people who have skills that are beneficial to the economy. And you can research on what the critical skills work permit is about. Like, just type it into Google, critical skills work permit Ireland, and you will get all the information that you need. So you can research about that. So if you're on the critical skills work permit, then after 2 years of being on that work permit, you can apply for a stamp 4, is what it's called here. And with that stamp 4, you can work anywhere you want to work without needing a work permit or being sponsored by any of the other, like the company that you work for, sorry. On the thing of being sponsored, so if you're moving to anywhere in Europe and you're not someone who has like years and years and years and accolades and accolades and accolades on your CV, you're most likely going to go into audit first before you can go into industry. So what I like about being in Ireland is that I can go into industry next year if I want to go into industry, which is really, really nice, because then I'm not stuck in the same company for a long period of time should I choose to want to go somewhere else. And it's nice to know that you will have that freedom in 2 years' time. And from what I was speaking to my friend about in the UK, she said that you would still need to be sponsored for 5 years. So I only need to be sponsored for 2 years here. So I think in the UK you need to be sponsored for 5 years. Just so we're clear, I do not live in the UK. I live in the Republic of Ireland. A lot of people have asked me what it's like to be in the UK. A lot of people have told me, oh, I'm also moving to the UK. I don't live in the UK. They are not the same countries and are not the same islands. So please, let me just take it down a notch. But I don't live in the UK. There's Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, and then there's the Republic of Ireland, which is a republic and a country on its own, and that's where I live. Okay, I don't live in the UK. Don't ask me about the UK, because I don't know about the UK, because I don't live in the UK. Anyways, so yeah, my friend was saying she would need to be sponsored for 5 years, but then after those 5 years, she can apply for citizenship, I think, something like that. I don't know, but for me in Ireland, 2 years and you essentially get permanent residency, and then add another 3 years and you can apply for citizenship, which I think is really cool. And you just have to like go through the whole citizenship application process, and if they approve you, they approve you. If they don't, they don't. Like, but the nice thing is like you don't have to learn another language, because Ireland is a very much English speaking country, even though they have the Irish Gaelic or Irish. Most people speak English, and even the people who speak Irish also speak English. So it's really nice. Like it's easier to integrate here, because the only thing that gets in the way is the accent. Sometimes you just don't understand people's accents. But like after like being in conversation with them often enough, you then get to understand like that their pronunciation is just different from yours, and that's it. Whereas if you move to other countries in Europe, like Germany and Netherlands, those people speak their languages, like German and Dutch. So if you don't understand a lick of those languages, then integrating becomes a lot more difficult, because like for me, I can go out for drinks with people from work and not have to worry that there's going to be a language barrier. Whereas if you're over there, you'll go out for drinks for people. Whoa! You go out for drinks with people from work. And there might be that language barrier, because not everyone will want to speak English. Like, that's just the way people are. I'm gonna leave that residency chat over there if you want to know more about it. If you want to know anything about Ireland, you can DM me on Instagram. If you want to know about other countries, go on Google, and Google will tell you. Okay, I'm not Google. I promise you, I'm not Google. I do my own research the same way other people do their own research. Okay, no shade. No shade, but some people genuinely don't like to ask Google things, and I'm just like, just type it into Google. Google will tell you. Google will give you options. My knowledge is limited, okay? The next bit is the role that you work when you are moving over. So as I mentioned earlier, if you don't have mounts and mounts of accolades, and if you don't have like years and years of experience, chances are when you first move over, you're going to take a downgrade. So when I moved over, I was a senior in audits, and when I left SA, I was a supervisor, so I took a step down. But I took that step down because I was like, well, in 2 years time I will be a manager, and back home it would have also taken me 2 years to get to the manager position. So I was like, okay, fine. And then I got sold a dream, y'all. But when I was moving over, I was told that it would, you know, I would only do the senior role for 6 months, just so that I can understand what it's like to work in a different country, because the rules here, they're not entirely different in terms of how accounting works, but there is like extra regulation that you're not going to know coming from different countries. So it's good to start at a lower position, because then you can integrate and up your knowledge, so that when you get to the higher position, you're not there like looking around to other people for solutions to things that you should have the solutions to. So you take a step down, and depending on, again, what your end goal is for moving, you might be willing to do that, you might not be willing to do that. So if you're willing to do that, then I would say jump right in and move straight after articles. Like, there's no need to wait a year and do your year in essay and then come here, because it might be to your detriment. You might still 1 year post articles come over to the side and still have to do the senior role, as opposed to moving here, doing a year of being a senior or whatever, and then moving to assistant manager / supervisor, and then moving to manager. So it all depends on what you want out of it at the end of the day. And yeah, that's what influences whether or not you make that decision. But that's the first thing you take a downgrade on, is your role at work. The second thing you take a downgrade on, especially in Europe, is your lifestyle. I cannot ball out the same way that I would ball out back home over here, because the cost of living here is a lot. It's a lot, guys. Don't let anyone fool you. Europe is expensive, and I'd always known that Europe was expensive because when I first did when I did my first trip outside of Africa, I did it to America as opposed to Europe, because my sister lived in America, and I have cousins living in London. So I always felt like I'd rather go to America because the exchange rate works out in my favor. Well, not necessarily in my favor, but it works out better to go to America than to go to Europe. So I'd always known that Europe was expensive, but I didn't really know how expensive it was until I moved here. So like, even when I lived in London for 6 months, a lot of the expenses that I pay now were paid by the company, because I was on secondment. I wasn't on the payroll of that office. I was on the payroll of my home office in Durban. So I didn't pay for a lot of the things that I'm paying for now, like paying for rent, paying for my electricity, paying for my internet, paying for my phone. Like, all of that stuff was paid for by the company. So you don't really feel how expensive Europe is until you actually have to live here and maintain, everything for yourself. And I'm speaking specifically for people who are in audit. So I'm not speaking for, bankers or anything else like that. I'm speaking specifically for audit. But the nice thing about it is that you will, have a salary increase, minus this whole COVID year, which, made everything go mumbo jumbo for everybody. You will have a salary increase every year, and that honestly goes a long way in terms of achieving the type of lifestyle that you want. But with regards to the lifestyle, you have to be conscious of the fact that you are not in South Africa, and you will not be able to replicate the same lifestyle that you have back in South Africa, even if you had the money to, because lifestyle in South Africa is not just having the money to be able to go out and ball out. It's also the people that you're surrounded with. It's also the type of culture that they have. It's also the type of music that you listen to, and all of that good stuff. So everything plays a role in you having the South African life somewhere else that isn't in South Africa. So you have to be aware of the fact that when you're moving, you're leaving South Africa, and things are going to be different. And if you open yourself up to accepting that things are going to be different, then you'll be fine. But if you're constantly trying to replicate a South African lifestyle over here, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. So that's another thing that you need to be conscious of. But would I encourage people to move here and take the role downgrade, take the lifestyle downgrade? I definitely would, depending on what you want for yourself. Like, you have to, it's like anything else, you have to do it for yourself. So if you're doing it to please other people, if you're doing it to show off to other people, then I've got news for you, sweetie. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be really tough. So yeah, like, you have to make the decision for yourself. And I would definitely encourage people to do it. I would encourage you to do it as soon as you are straight off that articles bus. If you're going to move overseas, do it then, especially if you're untethered to anybody else. Like, I'm untethered to anyone. So moving, like making the decision to move was very easy for me, and I was like super excited about it, child. And has it been rewarding? Yes, hell yes. The work environment here is so different from the work environment back home. Like, some of the problems are still the same. You still have office politics, and you'll have that anywhere in the world, but working here has been so much more rewarding, and that, like, the work environment for me has been so much more healthier and less toxic than the work environment back home. And that's the tea. That's the real tea. That is all I wanted to say on that, guys, and I hope you guys have found this video informative, especially for people who are wanting to move over to Europe, or people who just want to know in general what the whole thing is like and what the whole thing is about. Like, I hope you found the video informative. And for guys who are wanting to move to America, I know nothing, absolutely nothing about that, so please don't DM me about that, because I genuinely don't know and I won't be able to help you. But yeah, genuinely do hope you guys have found the video informative. If you have, even if you haven't, you know, just give the video a thumbs up. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, and I will catch you guys in my next one. Bye.